Halo Reach is Bungie's last ever masterpiece. This game was the culmination of nearly 9 years of video game development, world building and storytelling, and my god, Reach was fucking magnificent, wasn't it? It really was. I love this game to pieces. I'm going to say that outright at the very beginning of this video. And I reckon like 90% of you watching this video have played Reach and absolutely loved it at the time it came out and still love it to this day. This is the most widely consumed Halo game ever created, more so than Halo 3, more so than Halo 2. This is pretty much the game that brought the entire gaming community together. Everybody loved this game when it came out. So if you haven't guessed already by reading the title, today we're going to be doing a retrospective on one of my favourite games of all time, Halo Reach. Just want to say before we start this video that yeah, I know it's been a long time since I've actually uploaded a video, which is fucking hilarious. I mean, considering on Twitter I was actually talking a lot of shit after I got my computer back. I was like,
yeah boys, let's get back on the fucking grind, let's do it.
And it didn't really come into fruition. it just didn't. I don't know when the next video is going to be, but we're back with some Halo Reach action because it came out 9 fucking years ago. Can you believe that? For all of you watching this video that were around or a fan of the Halo franchise and Reach came out, it's been 9 years, boys. Fucking hell, it's been 9 years since I've had an actually fucking good Halo game.
Am I right, gentlemen?
As most of you may know, Destiny came out pretty much around 4 years after Halo Reach. So Halo Reach came out in 2010, Destiny came out in 2014. And obviously, during the process of working on Halo Reach, Bungie were starting to shift towards the idea of starting a new IP after developing the Halo franchise for the better part of 10 years. Coming up to the release of Halo Reach, everybody knew that Reach would be Bungie's last installment in the Halo franchise. And this means that Reach had to be the goodbye to Halo from Bungie, considering they were passing it off to 343 to go and work on something else in the future. This meant the game needed to feel bigger and better and needed to stand out from the previous titles in the Halo series because they wanted to do Halo justice one last time. With the Destiny franchise on the horizon, it was Bungie's last chance to deliver a Halo experience unlike any other. Unlike Halo 3, unlike Halo 2, unlike ODST, an experience that would stick with fans for the rest of their lives as an outstanding game in the Halo franchise, which would prove to be a hard task, especially after games like Halo Combat Evolved, Halo 2 and Halo 3. Halo Reach actually turned out to be the most stylistically, tonally and artistically unique game in the entire Halo franchise and perfectly encapsulates the humanity of the Spartans at the beginning of the Human Covenant War. In a way, I'd say that Halo Reach was Bungie's love letter to fans as a sort of final departing gift, because, let's be honest, the future of Halo was looking pretty bleak in the hands of someone who wasn't Bungie, and it was great they went out with a bang. In Halo Reach, Bungie made it abundantly clear that the focus of the game was that it was a character-based story, and there needed to be some pretty good Spartan characters to be able to carry this narrative, to create something that many Halo games failed to achieve in the past, which was a story that was driven solely by the characters. In this game, you don't play as an invincible 7-foot-tall war machine like you did in the other Halo games. You play as a Spartan 3, a far less sophisticated iteration in the Spartan program. Noble Team, which are the main characters of the game, are comprised of 5 Spartan 3s and 1 Spartan 2, which is actually George. And the thing I love the most about all the characters, or the main Spartan characters in this game, is that they're all so unapologetically human, which is such a different take on Spartans as we know them. Chief was a stoic killing machine. It's a nice change of pace to have characters that aren't walking one-liners, as much as I love Chief. It adds to the gritty realism of Reach. It shows that genuine people were affected by this battle between the Covenant and the humans. During the fall of Reach, Spartans were a lot less expendable, meaning each individual Spartan was a lot more important to the war effort. So when it comes to each Spartan dying, it really hits hard, especially considering before Reach, we had never seen a Spartan die in the whole of the Halo franchise. Obviously, with Bungie's focus with these characters being to show their humanity and showing that they're no different to civilians in a way, the Spartans in Reach show so much more humanity. The camaraderie, the moments of irritation, the success and happiness, but most of all, the Spartans from Reach show something that no other Spartan in Halo had ever shown before. And that was fear. And it wasn't fear in the sense that they were visibly frightened like a scared child. They were more showing their fear through their desperation and the way they fought the Covenant on Reach. This was their last stand, pretty much. Reach was the last planet that stopped the Covenant from getting to Earth. The fear that they displayed in Reach was their final act of defiance against the most powerful foe humanity had ever faced. At the end of the day, the battle for Reach rests firmly on the shoulders of the members of Noble Team, and during the events of this game, they are forced to disobey orders and come up with their own plan to save Reach from the Covenant Corvette, until it all goes wrong, and in fact, the Covenant were just biding their time before rupturing slipspace and sending the fleet of Particular Justice to glass the planet. Reach is a story based around fear. The fear of the unknown, the fear of losing those who are close to you, and the fear of, well, losing. Reach is the story of loss. And what is more relatable to humans than the fear of losing that which you love? Noble 1, Carter. As the leader of Noble Team, Carter's role in the game is a lot clearer. His main purpose is to keep the team on top form as well as bringing out the strengths of each of his teammates. Carter may not be the deepest of the lot, but he still has his moments and I really like his character. He served the purpose that he needed to in relation to the others, and his bond with Kat is highlighted a few times throughout the game. This is because they're both the only original remaining members of Noble Team, meaning that everyone else are simply replacements for Spartans that died. This means they would have been through the same tough times together, and they would have been there for each other since the beginning. I would have loved to see more of this companionship throughout the game, but they really didn't have enough time to flesh these characters out in the short campaign that we get. All in all, Carter's a perfect Spartan. He's lethal, but also has a certain compassion for his teammates and ultimately wants to bring everyone together to complete their mission. At the end of the day, he sacrificed himself for the betterment of his team, which is a hugely heroic thing to do. Which brings us to our next member of Noble Team, Noble 2, Kat. Kat is a strange one. She doesn't really get an awful lot of screen time, and honestly, when I first played the game, I found myself really disliking her character, but upon replaying the game, I actually appreciated her role in the team. She's the tech specialist and specialises in hacking and technical repairs, which leads to some interesting unique traits of her character. She's rebellious. Everyone else in Noble Team adheres to the rules and regulations of classification set by Oni, whereas Kat delves deeper into files and reads what she isn't meant to. She uses her hacking abilities to gain more knowledge of exactly what Oni is up to, which as we know is very controversial. That's it for Kat. She's a very two-dimensional character. I like her and I like how she plays off the other members of her team, but I think like pretty much all of the members on Noble Team, she just didn't have enough game time to flesh her character out. To me, the biggest purpose her character served was when she died. It showed not only the audience, but the other characters that Spartans are not immortal. They aren't invincible killing machines, but just people, scared and doing everything they can to survive, which rubs off on other members of Noble Team as the game progresses. Noble 3, June. June is one of my favourite members of the team, simply because he was previously a Spartan headhunter, which are basically Spartans who go on lone wolf or two-man suicide missions to assassinate high-value targets. This is why he's so proficient with a sniper, because he's an assassin. He doesn't have an awful lot of dialogue throughout the game, but he certainly is the most fleshed out member of the team because he's the only one that survives the fall of Reach, and thus his character is expanded upon within the extended Halo universe. He's also a sort of rebellious character because he doesn't seem to really care for UNSC, or at least he doesn't adhere to typical military behaviour. This is because of one of his battle quotes in which he says, "I kill the enemy, but I do not hate them. He's a very level-headed character, and I think that's maybe why I like him so much. His presence is almost chilling. Noble 4, Emil. It may seem like this character is very self-explanatory on the surface, but he's actually more interesting than you may think. Yeah, he was everyone's favourite Spartan when they were a kid in terms of looks. I mean, he's the embodiment of what every angsty teen looks for in a Spartan. As a mixture of red and black armour, says depressing one-liners, and of course, has his trademark skull visor. I for one still love Emil. He's not my favourite character in Noble Team, but he is actually very interesting below the surface. He was orphaned at a young age and forced to become a Spartan soldier under the UNSC. The thing with Emil is, he seems like a hardened man on the surface, but he strikes me as nothing more than a scared child underneath his armour. He seems afraid of death, despite having the appearance of the Reaper himself. One scene that really leads me to believe that Emil is afraid of the reality of death is when Kat dies. Before this point, it was a very rare occasion for a Spartan to die. They were hailed in the UNSC as unbeatable machines, but seeing Kat so easily picked off right in front of him was a slap in the face for Emil. This shot in particular, as Carter is carrying Kat's body, we can see the rest of the team taking point and making sure the area ahead is clear. Although we can see Emil, alone, unarmed, and in the darkness with nothing but a red light illuminating him. In this shot, he looks afraid, shell-shocked, and out of his depth. His character arc to me is one of the more interesting ones in Halo Reach, because it is a journey of facing death, and realising that what's at stake is more important than his own personal fears. And in the end, he faced death like a true Spartan. Noble 5, George. George is by far my favourite member of Noble Team, and no, it's not because my fucking name is George. That's not the reason why. That'd be a dumb reason to like a character, to be honest. Well, it's not even fucking spelt the same anyway, alright? Just
fuck off.
He represents the side of hope and life, much like how Emil represents the side of fear and death. I think George and Emil are almost the yin and yang of Noble Team in a sense, with one being very defeatist and afraid, and the other being optimistic and heroic. He represents compassion and empathy, which is shown even in the first mission of the game, where he calms down the woman and speaks to her in her native tongue, and afterwards scolding Emil for cracking a joke in an inappropriate situation, after the girl has just lost her father. But by far the main reason why I love George is because of his sacrifice. As a Spartan whose home world was reached, he loved the planet and its people and would do anything to stop the Covenant from getting there and destroying everything he held dear. He gave his life to destroy the Covenant carrier threatening Reach and died believing that he saved his home world from complete annihilation. What makes this moment all the more gut-wrenching is when you realise that it was actually all for nothing. Moments after George's confirmed death, slipspace ruptures are detected by the on-ship AI, and a whole fleet of Covenant cruisers and ships come flying through space, ready to destroy Reach. George's death was in vain, and although he did all he could, it was not enough to save Reach from its inevitable glassing. George really was the heart and soul of Noble Team, and to this day, is my favourite character in the entire game, and one of my favourite characters in the entire Halo universe. And of course, through process of elimination, last but not least, is NobleSix. You. Not much is known about NobleSix's backstory for obvious reasons, but there's a small amount to know. He's known as the team's hyper-lethal vector, which is basically a designation given to UNSC soldiers that are exceptionally effective and are essentially biological killing machines. NobleSix gained a reputation as a lone wolf assassin that, according to Dr. Halsey, has made entire militia groups disappear single-handedly. NobleSix's superior once referred to Six as his own personal Grim Reaper and was thus reluctant to reassign him to Noble Team. This whole lone wolf assassin type vibe that I get from this leads me to believe that, much like June, NobleSix was in fact a headhunter who was used to take out high-value targets, which only makes his character that much cooler in my opinion. Dr. Dr. Halsey herself was impressed with his proficiency in combat with the quote, curious, hyper-lethal. There's only one other Spartan with that rating.
And of course, she's talking about Chief.
NobleSix also has probably the perfect ending, which is in a way foreshadowed by Carter at the beginning when he tells Six to leave that lone wolf stuff behind. He ends the way he started, alone and outgunned, taking as many of the Covenant down with him as he can. To end this segment, I just wanted to say that Halo Reach is mostly a game for characters, which was very different for the Halo franchise at the time. They usually focused on set pieces, one-liners and cool flashy gameplay, but honestly, Reach was Bungie's and Halo's first proper delve into trying to create a game that is run by its character. And of course, they succeeded to varying degrees. Some character moments in this game were amazing and impactful, and others were, well, just there. But overall, the characters in this game, I think, are fantastic, and really give us a good insight into Spartans as humans, not just as killing machines. Much more so than Chief ever did. Halo Reach was very much the beginning of a new era of Halo, in which the way the games played past this point was a huge contrast to the classic Halo that we all know and love. In a way, Halo Reach's revised gameplay formula was almost the beginning of the downfall of Halo's simple yet effective gameplay present in games like 2 and 3's multiplayer. The turning point in Halo's general gameplay was the addition of armor abilities, sprinting being the most commonly used. Sprinting had never been in a Halo game before, and there had been a huge debate for years whether or not Halo should have sprinting. I for one wish that Halo would have stuck with the normal formula of walking based arena shooter combat, but each to their own I suppose. The armor abilities in Reach were the best they've ever been though. The reason why is because players didn't become reliant on them during their playthrough, unlike future Halo games in which the armor abilities increase mobility and maneuverability and can pretty much be spammed in any dangerous situation. Halo Reach got the armor abilities just right, with decent cooldown times and a range of different abilities to use. Some of my favourite being Evade, Armor Lock, Active Camo and of course the Jetpack. One armor ability that I don't think should have been an ability in the first place is Sprint. If you're going to have a sprint in the game, then just allow players to always use it. If not, then take it out entirely, because compared to Evade or Jetpack, it's just completely obsolete in my eyes. It also didn't make sense for super soldiers to be able to run for a grand total of like 10 fucking seconds, so I'm glad they rectified that in newer titles, but I digress. Another aspect of gameplay that was tweaked for Reach was the overall movement of your player character. You move more slowly than Chief did in previous titles, you jump significantly less high, and most of your actions are generally less swift and are more grounded. This has obviously been done to reflect the fact that you are not playing as Master Chief, and you are in fact not playing as a killing machine at all. Well, not one as deadly as Chief. I personally love the way Halo Reach plays, especially in contrast to the way the previous Halos have played. Halo Reach is a very unique Halo game in terms of the way it plays. It's like the perfect mixture of classic and modern Halo, which is why every playthrough of the game is so utterly enthralling. Halo Reach plays like an absolute dream, even 9 years later. By this point, Bungie were no stranger to FPS level design, with 4 other Halo games under their belt. Masterful level design from the previous Halo games was brought back, but this time it looked more beautiful than ever. You can tell that Bungie wanted this game to look and play like a gritty sci-fi war simulation, and each level has been meticulously designed to reflect this. Some of my favourite missions in the game, in terms of the way they're structured and how they build up, as well as how they cosmetically appear, are Winter Contingency, Nightfall, Long Night of Solace, New Alexandria, The Package, The Pillar of Autumn, and Lone Wolf. All these missions were absolutely beautifully designed with the player in mind. Winter Contingency, the first mission of the game, was created with Halo's origins in mind. The developers at Bungie wanted to recapture the feeling of awe that they felt while playing Halo Combat Evolved. The feeling of freedom after being let out onto this beautiful alien planet. They wanted Halo fans to be able to experience that wonder one last time, which is why they opted to make Reach a planet that resembled Earth, so was familiar in terms of tone and feel, but also had a very alien undertone because after all, Reach had to be different to Earth. Winter Contingency is the perfect mission to start Halo Reach. It teaches you the basics without overbearing you with tutorials and allows you to get used to the close and long range encounters. It does start off a bit slow, but I think the build up to Noble Team finally realising that the Covenant is on Reach is done superbly. Seeing the direct start of the Human Covenant War sends shivers down my spine. All in all, yeah, it may not be the most flashy mission ever, but when I think of Halo Reach's campaign, the image of Winter Contingency is burned into my mind. Another mission that I adore, well, technically 3 missions, but I kind of consider them all one because they're directly at the end of the game and take place one after the other. And these 3 missions are the Package, the Pillar of Autumn, and Lone Wolf. These missions form the ending of the game, and they're all so significant to Halo's storyline that I had to mention all of them. Let's start with the Package. In this mission, it's Noble Team's task to go back to Oni base and destroy it in a torch and burn op run by a small team. I usually don't like it when games reuse mission areas because it feels like a bit of a waste of a campaign mission, but to be honest, the premise and execution of this mission is superb. You're outgunned and outnumbered, the Covenant now completely own the area and have destroyed the Oni base for the most part. Once you make your way inside after fighting through hordes of Covenant, you find that nothing is there. Auntie Dot receives coordinates from an unknown AI and a hidden door slides back to reveal an excavation tunnel. Turns out that Oni have found something top secret, a Forerunner cavern. On the way down, it turns out that Dr. Halsey is the one who orchestrated their arrival and that she needs their help to defend her lab while she decrypts some final information. This section of the mission requires the player to go through a few waves of enemies which get progressively harder. This section proves to be quite the challenge on Legendary given the amount of elites they throw at you. After killing the last enemy, you return to Dr. Halsey in her lab and she reveals that she has made a discovery that could turn the tides of the war, and that they must get this information off planet immediately. Turns out the unknown AI that sent them coordinates was Cortana, who chooses NobleSix to get her to the Pillar of Autumn. This moment was amazing. Seeing Cortana before she had met Chief just after Halsey made her was just a fantastic moment, and to have Cortana choose NobleSix as her defender was fitting considering, you know, we played as Chief for like 9 fucking years. Anyways, June leaves to escort Dr. Halsey to safety, which leaves you, Emil, and Carter as the remaining members of Noble Team to get to the Pillar of Autumn before it leaves the system. Which brings us to the next mission, the Pillar of Autumn. The remaining members of Noble Team, Six, Carter, and Emil, are in a Pelican which is being tailed by Covenant Banshees. Carter orders Six and Emil to abandon the ship while he draws the Covenant far away. The two of you must complete the courier mission without him. At this point, you and Emil have to fight your way through the Covenant until you finally reach a cave system, which is also filled with Covenant drones. After fighting through simply too many drones that killed me over and over and over again, Emil and Six are confronted by none other than a big fucking scarab tank. However, as Carter's last act of heroism, he flies directly into the tank with his Pelican and rams it off the side of the cliff, killing himself in the process. At this point, the mission becomes pretty much a big shootout. Captain Keyes contacts Emil and Six, asking them to clear a landing zone so he can retrieve the package and secure it on the Pillar of Autumn. Once the area is cleared, Keyes' Pelican arrives, but a CCS-class battlecruiser is advancing on the Pillar of Autumn with the intent to destroy it and all those on it. Emil is slain by Sangheili warriors, and it is up to NobleSix to avenge his fallen partner. Keyes offers him a place on the Pillar of Autumn, to which he replies, "Negative, I have the gun. Good luck, sir." After this, Six mans the mass driver and stalls the Covenant right as they're about to glass the entire area. Taking one last look at the sky, Six's only ticket off the planet is left, although he is safe in the knowledge that the package was delivered, which may very well turn the tides of the war. Lastly, but certainly not least, in this epic 3-mission installment is Lone Wolf. By far not the most flashy mission, and in fact is the shortest mission in the game, because it isn't really a mission at all. It's just a man with nothing left to lose, accepting death, but knowing that what him and his team did possibly saved the lives of the entirety of humanity. This mission is my favourite mission in the entire game, and one of my favourite missions in the whole of the Halo franchise, because I think it perfectly concludes the story of Reach. A story of fear, teamwork, perseverance, and ultimately, of loss. NobleSix's final stand to me is one of the best moments in any Halo game. It shows how ferocious a Spartan can be when they have nothing left to lose, and it really reinforces the saying that Spartans never die. They're just missing in action. Not only this, but I think Lone Wolf and the epilogue that comes after is the perfect ending to Bungie's time working on Halo. We stayed with them on this 5-game journey, had countless of hours of fun playing their amazing games, but the time had come to pass the torch to another. And although Halo hasn't been the same since Reach, we can look back on the glory days of this series and be proud of the heights that it reached. And we can be content in the knowledge that we were there during Bungie's last masterpiece.